Amen.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave to move a motion without notice in relation to the passing of Nelson Mandela.
Is there any objection to that course of action being followed? There is none. The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House express its sorrow at the passing of former South African President Nelson Mandela on the 5th of December, aged 95. On behalf of the Government and the people of New Zealand, I offer our condolences to his family and to the people of South Africa. Nelson Mandela was a positive force for change, not only in South Africa but across the world. He was a man who, during the course of his remarkable life, made the transition from supporting an armed struggle against apartheid to becoming a joint winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. On the long walk that was his life, he was faced with many difficult choices. As he grew in stature and influence, he had to manage the expectations of his fellow South Africans, from the poorest and most marginalised to the richest and most powerful. He had to balance the desires of his own supporters, who had suffered so much, with expectations of the global community and most South Africans for a peaceful transition in their country. As an activist and as a political leader, he had to face these challenges and dilemmas while remaining true to himself. Ultimately, he made the decisions which mean that on this day, leaders are gathering from around the world to pay tribute to a man who became a global symbol of determination, perseverance and forgiveness. During his 27 years in prison, he was a focal point for the fight against the apartheid regime, but on his release he exhibited an inspiring ability to put his own hardships and sacrifice behind him. Where he could have chosen bitterness and revenge, he chose instead forgiveness and reconciliation, and his relationship with F.W. de Klerk was an example of this. After Mr. Mandela was elected president in the historic 1994 multiracial elections, he and F.W. de Klerk formed a government of national unity and were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. The nature of Mr. Mandela's character enabled him to transcend the economic and political tensions associated with meeting the high expectations of the new South Africa. I, along with other members present in the House today, had the privilege of meeting Nelson Mandela in 1995, and we all experienced there his incredible ability to make you feel that the privilege of meeting was all his. Prime Minister John Key has led a small group of distinguished New Zealanders to pay respects to Mr. Mandela at his official memorial service in South Africa. We have conveyed to the South African government the sympathy of the government and people of New Zealand. Many New Zealanders added their voices and actions to the struggle against apartheid. Mr. Mandela's passing is an opportunity to acknowledge those New Zealanders. They have proved to have been right. The conflict that occurred in New Zealand over sporting contacts with South Africa was, as those New Zealanders asserted at the time, about more than our right to watch sport. Nelson Mandela's passing will cast a long shadow, but his place in history is unassailable. We can honour his legacy by supporting South Africa to stay on Mr. Mandela's path of forgiveness, freedom and prosperity.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. The Honourable David Parker.
Mr. Speaker, I am privileged to rise